What up, peeps? It's your boy Heck Steve. Welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk to you about my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Now, how does a man decide what his favorite 10 games of all time is? Well, a man does not decide his top 10 favorite games of all time with ease. There's a lot of great games that have came out over the years, and this could easily be a top 15, 20, or even a top 100. But 10 seems official, right? So we'll go with 10, but I'm going to show some gameplay and kind of talk about these games and give you guys some information. Now, a lot of them are pretty obvious. I mean, everybody knows a couple of these games, but let's go ahead and we'll jump in with number 10. Number 10 is for the PlayStation 2. It is Tony Hawk's Underground.
Now, Tony Hawk games have been around since the original PlayStation, but it was the PlayStation 2 with Tony Hawk's Underground where it really elevated the franchise, in my opinion, because Tony Hawk games are fun to play, and they did help get a lot of people into skateboarding, but Tony Hawk's Underground was the first one where you actually play as a rookie or amateur skateboarder that's trying to make it big. And the storyline is kind of cheesy, but I mean, it's a lot of fun. The music soundtrack in this game is definitely impressive. And, your rival Eric Sparrow is a pain in the ass through and through. So it just really helps drive the narrative. And the gameplay for Tony Hawk skateboarding, top notch, man. You could have so much fun for hours and hours playing this game. And that's exactly what I used to do. I used to go over to my best friend Joe's house, and we would play this game all night and day. And we unlocked the secret Kiss arenas, or not arenas, but the parks and stuff that you can skate around in, and it's just loads of fun. So I highly recommend checking out Tony Hawk's Underground if you've never had the pleasure of playing it. And I really hope one day that they remake this game, because I mean the remasters they did for 1 and 2 were fantastic, so they need to give this the same treatment.
Number 9 on the list is going to be WWE versus Number 9 on the list is going to be WWE's SmackDown versus Raw 2006 for the PlayStation 2.
So it's no secret that I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I've been playing the wrestling games since I was a young buck, all the way from the Super Nintendo, up to current day with 2K24. But SmackDown versus Raw 2006, that was the best one in my opinion, other than Here Comes the Pain, of course. But 2006, they introduced the GM mode, which I really enjoyed, because I like getting creative and you get to control your show and which superstars become champion and stuff like that. But the gameplay and the animations, man, were really impressive for the time. I wouldn't necessarily say playing online was that great, but this was also during the PlayStation 2 era, so it was very laggy. But gameplay overall and the creation suite that this game had was really, really fun. I spent months and months making a complete custom wrestling roster. I have dozens of creator wrestlers that I've made, and I would just run shows with only those people on it. But I mean, just thinking about the wrestling roster in general, there was a fantastic amount of talent that you could do all kinds of storylines with or bookings. But yeah, it's a fantastic game, and if you love wrestling, man, it's worth checking out, especially if you can catch it on the PSP, which surprisingly is almost as good as the PS2 version. I figured it would be really, really simple. But yeah, that version is great too.
Number 8 on the list, Grand Theft Auto Vice City for the PlayStation 2.
Nowadays, the Grand Theft Auto franchise is a huge success, with Grand Theft Auto 5 and 6 is on the way, and I'm pretty excited about that since it's supposed to take place in Vice City as well. But man, Grand Theft Auto 3 was a game changer for the franchise, and I really feel like Vice City was, just an upgrade from that. And not only that, but you get tons of 80s nostalgia and vibes, as well as the soundtrack. You'll notice that with a lot of games that I like to play, that the soundtracks are just really great. Of course, we follow Tommy Vercetti's storyline, trying to make it big just out of prison here in Vice City. And, a drug deal doesn't go as planned, as they typically don't, especially when you're trying to push the narrative of a video game. But Grand Theft Auto, being the sandbox that it is, free roam, stealing cars, going on dates with nice, respectable ladies, and then, firmly taking your money back in the end out of the bushes, fighting off cops, rags to riches types of stories. Man, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, it's just a time capsule, man. And it's funny that I get nostalgic playing it when it came out in 2001 and the whole game's time setting is in the 80s, which I wasn't alive for. But, in the early 90s, you still got a lot of that nostalgia, or not nostalgia, but you got a lot of the 80s that kind of like drug over into the 90s. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto Vice City is an amazing game. If you haven't played it, I'll be really surprised, but definitely check it out.
Number 7 on the list, Pokemon Silver and Pokemon Gold. Gold and Silver? Gold and Silver.
So there's not really a lot to say that hasn't already been said about Pokemon, one of the most successful media franchises of all time. But I think Gold and Silver, which is second generation, was the best game in my opinion as far as, coming off of Red and Blue and then adding an additional 100 Pokemon to the game, and just the creativity that they put into some of the Pokemon, like Feraligatr for instance, is just awesome. And nowadays when you play a Pokemon game, there's a lot of really questionable Pokemon designs, like Nosepass for example. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's basically just a big ass rock with a nose on it. But I digress. Pokemon in general is a great game. If you played one, you've pretty much played them all. Of course, if you play one of the newer ones, you'll have a more advanced time with it. It's more intuitive, if you will. But, Pokemon Silver is definitely my favorite game of all time. Lugia, of course, being my favorite Pokemon.
Number 6 on the list, Ark, Survival Evolved.
When I talk about Ark Survival Evolved to someone that has no clue about the game, I try to tell them that it's like the best game ever made and the worst game ever made at the same time. The developers are, prone to doing shitty shit, breaking something when they fix something else. But essentially what you've got is a very harsh survival game that you get to tame and fight dinosaurs in. So that's pretty sweet. And, it's full creative as well. So you'll be, making bases, as you can see here. And, like I said, taming dinosaurs. Now, the PvP in this game is bullshit, and I think a lot of people take that stuff really too serious. There's big tribes in this game. You may join a server and there'd be like a tribe of like 50 plus people, and they try to get you in an Xbox party chat and talk political with you about the game, and it's just quite ridiculous. But also PvP in general is pretty shitty, but you should know what you're getting into. Of course, you may spend an entire night setting up camp, building a base, all for you to log in the next morning and it all be completely gone. And we're talking about losing hours and hours of effort here just because some guy came by and saw your base and decided that he didn't want you to have anything. And that's a very common occurrence in this type of video game. But there's also like a breeding aspect to the dinosaurs in this game, and you can get like mutations and different colors and stuff, or stats, and that's pretty sweet. So I will say that Ark is a really great game, but it can also be a huge pain in the ass and a time waster, because you will spend a lot of time taming dinosaurs, or doing anything really. And as you can see on the screen here, this guy's just being a fucking prick, and taking out some of these lower level players just because they might have had too much fun with the game, and so he's here to correct that for them. But there's also a lot of creativity that's expressed in this game, especially like with builds and stuff, and you'll see some footage of that here in just a minute. But people have gone insane with the builds that they can do in this game, building bases on top of dinosaurs, building like realistic style. This guy's still trying to troll these people, man. He grabbed him with the Pteranodon and took him up high so he would fall to his death, but the guy's got parachutes, so he's just like persistently trying to fuck them up. But yeah, here you go. Look at these amazing bases that people have built on dinosaurs that are completely movable. It's really sweet, man. It's more advanced than anything that I ever got into with this game. But I absolutely love Ark, and despite its faults, it can be an enjoyable experience, especially if you have a private server with you and your friends and you guys aren't really interested in fighting other people.
Number 5, Counter-Strike Source.
The Counter-Strike Source, of course, being a mod of Half-Life 2, doesn't really have like a storyline to it, but it's pretty simple. I mean, it's a shooting game where you have counter-terrorist versus terrorist. The terrorists are supposed to, go to the bomb site, which is either at A or B or sometimes C, and plant the bomb, and the counter-terrorists, of course, are supposed to stop them from doing that. It's a little dated of a game nowadays, but if you go on Steam, you'll see that people still, by the thousands, play this game compared to CSGO or Counter-Strike 2. And that's for good reason. It's because, they reworked a lot, they added a lot of stuff to CSGO and CS2 that, old heads like myself, we just prefer the old school stuff. And then there's even people that like playing 1.6 over Source, which was the one that was before Counter-Strike Source. I happen to grow up playing CSS, Counter-Strike Source, and prefer this one. It's great, man, and there's a lot of different game modes that people have made over the years. Like Jailbreak, for example, or Zombie Panic. All kinds of stuff, man. The creativity is limitless. It's very simplistic compared to like a modern shooter, but that honestly works in its favor sometimes.
Number 4, Resident Evil 2, the remake for PC and Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
Now here's a prime example of a remake. Resident Evil 2, one of the best survival horror video games of all time, including the original, but the remake is just, it plays so well. The atmosphere, the audio, everything is great about it, and it's different from the original, but it's different in good ways. And it's definitely got the survival horror aspect down to a T. If you haven't played the remake, man, you really got to do yourself a favor and get on it. I played this game every Halloween since it came out. I've played through it at least 2 or 3 times as Leon and at least twice as Claire. Absolutely love this game. Mr. X, which you'll see here in just a minute, is a total asshole. And as you're running through the police station, he's stalking you, and you can hear his footsteps. And I don't know about you guys, but man, like banging on the doors, like knocking hard, or just hearing like someone stomping. Yeah, there's Mr. X right there. But yeah, just hearing that kind of stuff, man, just really induces a lot of anxiety. I know a friend of mine that hasn't even completed this game because it was too terrifying or stressful for him. But if you love survival horror, you will definitely love this game. And honestly, if you love survival horror, you've probably already played it. But for those that are interested in getting spooked out, check out Resident Evil 2, the remake, man, because this game is a 10 out of 10.
Number 3, Indigo Prophecy for the PlayStation 2.
Things are never quite what they seem. We think we understand the world around us, but we really only see the outside, what it seems to be. I used to be just like you.
So for the longest time, Indigo Prophecy was my favorite video game. And, it's not even necessarily like a video game. I mean, there's a lot of quick time events to it. It's really just a interactive movie. And it even says that like in the main menu, when you click new game, it says new movie instead. But this is made by Quantic Dream. Of course, those, they went on to make Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human, which all of those games are fantastic. The voice acting in all of the games are pretty great, other than the Jason. You probably heard the Jason. That's a little silly, but other than that, man, the games really drive you in with the stories. You play as Lucas, who is possessed at the beginning of the game and kills an innocent man in the bathroom, and so you come to and you have to kind of like hide the evidence, and then eventually you end up playing as these 2 police officers that are trying to track down the killer. So you get the kind of cat side and the mouse side to the game, but it's a very great story. A lot of Theory of a Dead Man, for some reason, is part of the soundtrack, which I think is, kind of weird, but it works. And I highly recommend it. If you like story games, this is a game for you, man. Try to track it down, and it's not even expensive. I think you could get it for like less than $15. If you're outside of the United States, it's called Fahrenheit. They changed the name in America for some reason. We do that all the time. We like to do things differently. I couldn't tell you why, but yeah, absolutely love this game. That's why I have to keep it in my top 3.
Number 2, Left 4 Dead.
We made it. I can't can't believe we made it.
Son, we just crossed the street. Let's not throw a party till we're out of the city.
Man, Left 4 Dead. I love Left 4 Dead. Of course, we got another zombie game here. But this, honestly, man, this might be one of the most fun zombie games you'll ever play in your life. And yeah, they did make Left 4 Dead 2. I just always preferred the original. I wasn't really a big fan of the special infected that they introduced in Left 4 Dead 2. But this game, man, it's a 4-player co-op game. But you can also play versus mode where it's like 4-on-4 and the other team plays as the special infected, like the smoker, the hunter, and the boomer. It's really sweet, man. But like it's great because like the director, or they call it the director, but it's really the AI of the game. Every time that you play through it, it'll place items and it'll have different hordes attack you at different moments, so it keeps it fresh. And I've probably played over 500 hours of this game, mostly in versus mode, but even just co-oping it, yeah, as you can see here, you know, someone's playing as the hunter. He's about to jump and do a huge pounce and really fuck somebody up. This game, man, is so fun, and you can get it for like $2.99 these days on like a Halloween sale on Steam, but it's also on Xbox. But yeah, I absolutely love this game, man, and that's why it's my second favorite game of all time, because I just spent so much time playing it, and I would go back and play it right now.
And number one, my favorite video game of all time. If you watched the channel for a while, you probably already know this, but Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation.
Tactical espionage action. Now, of course, when I was a kid, I had no idea what that meant, but I knew that once Metal Gear Solid booted up, me and my best friend were in for a fucking treat, because this game is amazing. It has one of the best storylines in any video game that I've ever played. The voice acting is great as well. And not only does it have a great storyline, but it also has a lot of reality to it. You know, talking about warfare and nukes and stuff like that. But yeah, you play as Solid Snake, which I'm sure a lot of people already know by this point. I don't think Metal Gear Solid is one of those hidden gems. You know, everybody pretty much knows about it. But it's a stealth game, and you could play it stealth, or you could play it, you know, run and gun if you want to. It's up to you. But there is a lot of good characters in this game, like Psycho Mantis, for example. He's telepathic, and the only way that you could really beat him is by physically switching your controller from port 1 to port 2, because he can read your mind. So if you try to fight him, you know, obviously he's gonna, you know, kick your ass unless you do that, and then he can't read your mind. Really, really neat way of like combining reality with the story of the game. But of course, your mission is to stop Metal Gear, which is controlled by Liquid Snake. And, you know, that's pretty much the gist of the game. You know, obviously there's a lot more story to it than that, but I don't want to tell you too much. I highly recommend it. And now that the Master Collection Volume 1 is out, it's a great time to get it on modern consoles, so you don't have to worry about playing it on a PS1. My favorite video game of all time. This was the game that made me a gamer.
And that's it. That's my top 10 favorite video games of all time. You know, it wasn't easy condensing it all down to like 10 video games, but I feel pretty solid with that list. I feel like I'd have entertainment forever just with those 10 games alone. And, you know, most of those games aren't expensive. I think, you know, silver and gold are probably the only ones that are really pricey. So if anybody's interested in trying games out, you know, that you somehow haven't played, because I mean, a lot of these are, you know, mainstream titles and everything, definitely check them out, man. Leave a comment and let me know what your top 10 favorite video games of all time is.